What's up, guys? This is Kyurem from the Trinity of Lift, and today I bring all of you guys my Tribute-Stun Shaddoll Deck profile. This Shaddoll variant, really, I have created it because I kind of got bored of the generic Chaos Shaddoll deck, and I've been playing that version of the deck for quite some time, so I decided to kind of go back in and try to re-innovate Shaddolls for the current meta. So I thought maybe if I can create some sort of control variant of Shaddolls, they might fare a little bit better. So this is the list that I have concocted, I should say, and let's get right into it. For the Shaddolls, we'll start off with the new lineup. First off, we start off with 3 Shaddoll Beast. The reason why we now have 3 Beast instead of the usual 2, which is what I prefer, is because this is a Tribute Stun variant of Shaddolls. You will be wanting to Tribute Summon more often than you think you would wanna. So having the 3 Beasts for the draw power first of all, but also as another Tribute Summonable monster is very good, and it helps you keep your keep the controlling aspect of this deck, which you'll see in a second. Next up, I run 2 Shaddoll Skomata. I have cut Skomata to 2 primarily for the reason that rather than deck thinning our deck, the way I like to personally play this version of the deck is that I like to search my things out of my deck and add it to my hand, rather than deck thin it and put it into grave to get the effect that way. The reason being is that we want Shaddoll Beast in our hand more often than what we usually would expect from a Shaddoll deck, I should say. So we have the 2 Skomata rather than the 3 because we won't be wanting to send our Shaddolls from our deck to the grave as often, because it usually will be less optimal with the whole synergy with the deck. So we only do run 2 Skomata. Next up, we do run 2 Hedgehog. Actually, believe me, in this list, if I could bump up Hedgehog to 3, I actually would try to, because the reason is that Hedgehog's first flip effect, although it is still really good, searching that Shaddoll's fusion whenever we flip summon it is always nice. However, the main reason why I feel like Hedgehog plays an even more important role in this deck now is because we want to search our beasts to our hand more than we usually think we would, like I said before. We want to have our beasts in hand because that makes our tribute summon plays a little bit more live. And it really makes the deck, basically, with our tribute summons. So by having the access to search for our beast and adding it to our hand, really helps us get our big plays going. So we do run the 2 Hedgehog, although I wish I could fit 3. Next up, we do run the fairly standard 2 Falco. Really, it's standard, and I feel like I didn't have to shift numbers at all for this list either. So I still do run the 2 Falco. And then finally, for the last Shaddoll, we do only play 1 single copy of Shaddoll Dragon. The primary reason why I made this call of cutting Dragon to 1 is because basically the top deck now in the meta, if you guys for some reason don't know, is Necros, and they run maybe 3 back row, which is 3 vanities, maybe, I'm not too sure myself, but I know for a fact that they run basically almost no back row. So having the couple Shaddoll Dragon for quote-unquote back row removal isn't really ideal, as it'll end up being pretty dead if you have a sending outlet for it, and more often than not, we'll rather use the flip effect, I guess you could say. So having the 1 dragon, because we really don't need it, I guess you could say, we just have it for another name, really, is kind of helpful. But within this list, I haven't really missed the second at all, so I guess it works out just fine with 1. So that's it for the Shaddoll lineup this list around. Moving on to the very special cards within the deck, we start off with 2 Majesty's Fiend. This is the Tribute Stun Shaddoll variant, I should say. I should put emphasis on stun, because Majesty's Fiend is basically your win condition within this version of the deck. Majesty's Fiend is extremely good against almost every deck now in the meta, as if you can resolve a summon of Majesty's Fiend, you pretty much hinder your opponent to the point where they have to commit resources to the board, which they don't normally want to commit, in order to just get around Majesty's Fiend. This will end up making your opponent start to lose their advantage slowly by slowly, and thus you can start coming back and gaining your own advantage slowly by slowly with this controlling variant of Shaddolls. I will say that this variant of Shaddolls isn't very fast compared to the OTK Everything variant, which is the Chaos variant, but this deck has some controlling elements to it which really slow down your opponent and make them make plays that are not optimal for them, and thus it can help get you your own advantage by just basically making your opponent neg all the time. So that's why we run the 2 Majesty's Fiend for our stun aspect. Next up, we run the 3 Mathematician now. I have decided to bump it up to 3 because within testing, I found that this version of Shaddolls has a very, very weak first turn. Like, compared to the old Chaos Shaddolls where you could do some weird shenanigans first turn, this one, for whatever reason, always felt really slow first turn. Like, I'd always end up setting, like, 1 Shaddoll and passing or something along that line. So I have bumped Mathematician up to 3. Firstly, because I want to see him first turn now, like, to the point where I decided to bump it up to 3. As well as, besides the Shaddolls, we also have one more sending outlet that we want to send to grave with Mathematician. And you will see that in a second. So, the 3 Mathematician. Moving on, we have the 3 White Dragon Wyverburster and the 2 Black Dragon Collapse Serpent. Let's get that in frame. There we go. I run this new ratio of 2 and 2 because although they do flow and yada yada, we all know what the Chaos Dragons do by now. But the main reason why I like this new version of 2 and 2 rather than 3 Wyverburster and 1 Collapse Serpent is because they're very good tribute fodder for your Majesty's Fiend. This is... I have brought the ratio to an equal 2-2 ratio because I want to keep seeing my baby dragons. Like, if I lose a Collapse Serpent, I want to see the Wyverburster, and when I lose that Wyverburster, I still want to see another Collapse Serpent. This way, I can always know I have tribute fodder in my hand, and although when I do tribute summon Majesty's Fiend by using one of these guys, they do not get the float, the ultimate goal is to just get to the Majesty's Fiend. So by having this constant tribute fodder flowing through your hand most of the time, it really helps you make your Majesty's Fiend live, and it keeps your Majesty's Fiend from dead drawing, I should say. So we do run this new ratio of baby dragons. Next up, for our one-of monsters, this is going to be one pretty surprising to you all. I only now run 1 Denko Sekka in the main board. The reason why I have also cut Denko to 1 is firstly because I feel that Denko isn't all that great now. Before, Denko used to be phenomenal because she was the one who started your OTKs basically and letting you go in for the damage without ever having to worry about back row. But like I said before, there isn't really much back row in this format with Necros being the top deck and whatnot. Frankly, one of the few decks that I can think of off the top of my head that uses quite a few back row is really just Yosenju, in my opinion. And maybe, I guess, the odd Satellar Knight player. But really, most of the decks don't run back row. I mean, like, not Dark Law, but Burning Abyss usually have cut back row for stuff like Dark Law Access with their mask change. And they don't really run traps anymore. They maybe run 2 Fire Lake or whatnot. And so, rarely you'll be going against a Burning Abyss player when they have set cards. So that's why I felt that Denko Sekka was starting to dead draw, actually, now more than ever. So I decided to cut it to 1, so I can, I guess, see it whenever I might need it. But at the same time, cut the dead draws completely because I will rarely see it, and when I do, it's only a benefit, I should say. So that's sort of my reasoning for the 1 Denko Sekka now. Moving on, we do play a lot of Light and Dark, so we do have the 1 BLS, because BLS is still a fantastic card. And then finally, for the final 2 monsters, I have put in a Dark Arm Dragon and 1 Eclipse Wyvern. I also put this in sort of for the reason is that because alongside Majesty's Fiend, I want more boss monsters, I should say, that really can help me swing games in my favor. For when my opponent has a not so great board, I should say, when they don't have a very established board, I want to have something where I can drop and just start going in for my advantage and my damage now. So I have found room for the Dark Arm Dragon and the 1 Eclipse Wyvern to search it out. As Dark Arm is extremely powerful and it's pretty consistent in the deck as you do have quite a bit of graveyard control in the deck with your sending outlets and your baby dragons. And we also have the Eclipse again to search out Dark Arm and as also another light monster for our Nephilim Fusion plays. So that is it for the monsters. Starting with the spells now, we do start off with 3, the Monarch Stormforth. This card, I will say, is ridiculous within this version of the deck. As firstly, my biggest thing that I love about Stormforth is that if you have a live Stormforth with either a Shaddoll Beast or a Majesty's Fiend in hand, this card by itself is an out to the Jin lock that Necros players can make. Having the ability to basically tribute off the Clasolis or the Trishula or whatever monsters that they make with the Jin is very strong, as firstly, you take that monster off of their board, and you basically can gain advantage by whatever monster you tribute summon, either through Majesty's Fiend, where you pretty much slow down your opponent, or your Shaddoll Beast, where it can get you draw power. So, the Stormforth in this deck is ridiculous, and frankly, like I said, we always want our Stormforce to be live, so we do have the 2 Shadow Hedgehog again to search out our beasts, so we can make Stormforce more consistent and more live. So that is why we run the 3 Stormforce. Moving on, we do still play the 3 Shaddoll Fusion and the 3 El Shaddoll Fusion. Even though Shaddolls aren't the top tier deck right now, I know that for a fact. We still want to go into our fusion plays and whatnot. Even though our Majesty's Fiend is now our new win condition, we still want to go into our fusions whenever we have to, because the fusions are what helps us push for our damage, get stuff off board, etc., etc. So we need to still play the 3 of each primary fusion so that we can get to them. Moving on, we still only have room, sadly, for 2 Mystical Space Typhoon. Honestly, if I had to put a 41st card into the deck, it would be a 3rd copy of MST. It's just that I wanted to keep my deck down to 40 cards, which this main deck is 40. So I just only could run the 2, basically, although I still wish I could run the 3rd. Moving on, we do have the 4, I should say, Jinlock outs. We have the 1 Book of Moon, the 1 Raigeki, and the double Dark Hole. Because of how prevalent Necros are in the format right now, and how ridiculous the Jinlock is against Shaddolls especially, I wanted to have as many outs to it as possible. So basically, I have the 3 Stormforce as their outs, as well as I have these 4 outs for the Jinlock. Because if I cannot special summon, Shaddolls really lose pretty bad to Necros, because their fusions become dead, their BLS becomes dead, basically everything becomes horribly dead and unusable under the Jinlock. So we have to play this many outs, in my opinion, so that we never will get locked under it. So that's it. Actually, excuse me, we have 1 more spell. The final spell is the 1 Snatch Steal. Again, this is to help clear our opponent's board, get that monster off their side of the field and onto ours, and help us push for damage. So that is it for the spells. And then finally, for the 1 trap card, we do play the single Shaddoll Core. Core is fairly self-explanatory in any Shaddoll deck now, but the reason why I put 1 is because, for some odd reason, I've been seeing 2 quite too often for my liking, so I decided to cut it to 1, because although 2 is good because it can help me recycle my fusions when I have to, or at that odd time give me the element that I specifically need for a specific fusion, I find that Core is kind of slow now, and in this personal variant of Shaddolls, I don't want as many slow cards as I'm already running, I should say. So I cut the 2nd Core for just 1. So that is it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. We start off with the fairly standard 3 El Shaddoll Nephilim. Again, she is our Catastor of the deck. She helps us send our Shaddolls from deck to grave to get their effects. She floats into other Shaddoll fusions. We have to run her at 3 because she is, again, the fusion we will most often be going into. Next up, we do run 2 El Shaddoll Winda also, but I should mention that there is a very cool interaction with Winda and Majesty's Fiend, as what Majesty's Fiend pretty much reads is that no monster effects can be activated. However, El Shaddoll Winda's effect is not an activation effect, it's a continuous effect. So Majesty's Fiend essentially does not harm Winda whatsoever. So having the essentially soft lock of a Majesty's Fiend and an El Shaddoll Winda on board really hampers your opponent, because they only have 1 special summon now, and they cannot activate monster effects. So having that controlling aspect of the deck really helps slow down your opponent to really get to the slow level that you're starting to play at, and that way you can get your advantage by making your big blow up plays and whatnot. So we do run the 2 El Shaddoll Winda, and I should mention that you will feel like you're going into this more often than you have before with the other variants, because you really will. Winda is a very good card in this deck now because you want to slow down your opponent. So we do have the 2 El Shaddoll Winda. Moving on to the final fusion, we do only have 1 El Shaddoll Shekinaga. Although we do have the 3 Mathematicians still, I felt that Shekinaga isn't all that important, I should say, to run multiples of, because this extra deck, in my opinion, is pretty tight. So we only have the 1 Shekinaga because she is good, but we won't always be fusing our Mathematicians away, because I will say this, that I'd rather get the draw and take a little bit of battle damage from Mathematician getting hit by battle, rather than always trying to fuse my Mathematicians away into Shekinaga so I don't get hit for that damage. Because frankly, this deck is, again, pretty slow, as you don't have your big OTK plays, or you don't have them as often, I should say. So that we have the 1 Shekinaga because we won't be going into it as much anymore. that is it for the fusions. Moving on to the synchros. We start off with the one Leo, because you can make it with the Filament Falco. And Leo is pretty good still. Although it kind of loses out to stuff like the Necros of Trishula, because Trishula, for some odd reason, does not target. Leo is still fantastic because he's just a 3.1k stick that can get over a lot of things. So we do still play the one Leo. Next up, we do play now the one Arcanite Magician. The reason why I play Arcanite now is because we will find ourselves having Shaddoll Beast on board more times than we usually would. So we have the Arcanite Magician for that one time when we ever have Falco and a Beast on board. And again, Arcanite is still good because it's basically free removal for 2 cards on the field, as well as it's also a light monster for our Nephilim plays. Next up, we do have the one HTS Psyhemoth now. The reason why I have Psyhemoth as my level 6 synchro over Goyo Guardian is because previously Goyo always felt kind of lackluster, as even if I were to make Goyo against something like Burning Abyss and poke a Dante and then steal the Dante, I felt like that wasn't as good of a play, in my opinion, because then really the Dante will get its effect eventually, unless I overlay it for Downward Magician, and if my opponent has an out to Downward Magician, they also will still get the Dante floating effect. And in my opinion, I really don't want my opponent to gain as much advantage over me, because I, again, like I said, won't be gaining as much advantage as usual. So I have the Psyhemoth rather to banish key cards like Dante and whatnot, so I can guarantee that they won't get their float as much, and so my deck can try and keep up with them, I should say. So we do run the one Psyhemoth. Finally, we for the last synchro, we do run the one level 5 Armades, Keeper of Boundaries, because Armades is still a phenomenal card. It can get around the mirror match when your opponent has a set Shaddoll. It can get around things like Honest, because they can honest the monster that Armades is attacking, and all kinds of other cool stuff. So that's why we still run the one Armades. So that's it for the synchros. Moving on to the XYZs, we have the one Lavalval Chain. Lavalval Chain, frankly, is probably the most often rank 4 that you'll be making, because Lavalval Chain's ability to essentially search out your Majesty's Fiend by stacking it is really good, as there is, outside of Lavalval Chain, there is no way you can search Majesty's Fiend. So we do have the one Lavalval Chain to help us search out our Majesty's Fiend ASAP, as well as whenever we might need to for whatever situation, we can also Foolish Burial a monster. So we do have the one Lavalval Chain. Next up, we have the one Ragna Zero. Again, this is sort of like, I guess you could say this is sort of like anti-meta Shadolls. So the whole reasoning why I put Ragna Zero in here is because I want to beat Cleaforts, as there is not really an answer to a majority of the cards within the main deck. So I have the Ragna Zero within the extra deck to help me combat that matchup a little bit more better. So yeah, the one Ragna Zero. Moving on, we kind of have pretty generic rank 4s in that we have the one Abyss Dweller for whenever we play against Burning Abyss or the mirror match. We have the one Exiton Knight, because nuking the field is always good, and it can help you get your advantage back. And then finally, for the last rank 4, we do play the one Castel, the Sky Blaster Musketeer, because spinning things back to deck is always a very powerful out, in my opinion. So that is it for my Tribute-Stun Shaddoll deck profile, guys. Please let me know what you guys think of the list down in the comment section below. I will say that this might not be the most optimal Shaddoll list right now, because I'm still quite in the process of testing it, as I like the theory behind it, but there are some little kinks that I might try and work out. So maybe I can bring you guys a re-updated list, I should say, in the future. But for now, this is what I am running for my Shaddoll, my personal Shaddoll deck, and frankly, I'm having a blast because I think I have improved majority of this deck's matchups within the meta fairly substantially. So I'm liking this deck as it is right now. So I hope you guys all enjoyed it, and I hope you guys take this idea to heart, in that Shaddoll should start slowly becoming more of a controlling deck rather than an OTK deck, as that's my opinion as how they can thrive in the future. So, as always, this is Kyurem from the Trinity of Lift, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.